In 2025, something fundamental changed in the American heavyweight motorcycle market. Sales dropped to barely a third of their peak. The average rider turned 50 years old, and both of America's iconic motorcycle companies found themselves under entirely new leadership, racing to answer the same question. Can the next generation of riders fall in love with heavyweight motorcycles the way their parents and grandparents did? That question is worth billions of dollars, and nobody knows the answer yet. This is the story of how we got here, where things stand today, and what comes next for the machines that defined American motorcycling. To understand the present, you have to go back more than a century to two cities in the American heartland. In 1901, in Springfield, Massachusetts, a company called the Hendy Manufacturing Company produced America's first production motorcycle. They called it the Indian. The brand would go on to dominate the early decades of motorcycle racing, winning nearly every major competition and establishing the blueprint for what an American motorcycle should look like. In 1903, in a small wooden shed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, William Harley and Arthur Davidson built their first motorcycle. By 1920, Harley-Davidson had become the largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world, with dealers in 67 countries. These two brands, Indian and Harley-Davidson, would spend the next century trading places as rivals, partners in defining American motorcycle culture, and eventually both struggling against forces neither could control. For most of the 20th century, heavyweight motorcycles were the domain of young men. The 1985 Motorcycle Industry Council survey found the median age of American motorcycle owners was just 27 years old. Riders in their 20s and 30s filled the showrooms. The pipeline of new customers seemed endless. Then came the golden era. Through the 1990s and into the 2000s, heavyweight motorcycle sales in America climbed year after year. Baby boomers, now approaching their 50s with disposable income and grown children, rediscovered the motorcycles of their youth, or they bought the bikes they had always dreamed about but could never afford when they were young. The market peaked in 2006. That year, American dealers sold 349,196 new heavyweight motorcycles. Harley-Davidson alone shipped nearly 350,000 bikes worldwide. The streets of Sturgis and Daytona Beach overflowed with chrome and leather. Waiting lists stretched for months on popular models. Dealerships became destinations. It felt like the party would never end. Then the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 arrived like a cold wind across those same streets. Heavyweight motorcycles are what economists call big-ticket discretionary purchases. When people worry about their jobs and their retirement accounts, $20,000 motorcycles are among the first things they stop buying. Sales cratered. Dealers closed. Harley-Davidson laid off workers in Milwaukee for the first time in decades. The company that had seemed invincible suddenly looked vulnerable. But here's the thing, almost nobody understood at the time. The recession wasn't the real problem. The recession was just the moment when a much deeper structural shift became impossible to ignore. The customers were getting older, and not enough younger riders were replacing them. The Motorcycle Industry Council tracks these demographics carefully. In 2009, the median age of American motorcycle owners had climbed to 40 years old. By 2014, it reached 47. The most recent comprehensive survey conducted in 2018 found the median age had hit 50. Think about what that number means. Half of all motorcycle owners in America are now over 50 years old. The generation that powered the golden era is aging out of riding, and the generations behind them haven't shown up in the same numbers. Riders under 18, who once represented 8% of motorcycle owners in 1990, have dropped to just 2% in recent surveys. The 18 to 24 age group plummeted from 16% to 6% over the same period. The motorcycle industry didn't just lose customers in 2008, it lost an entire generation. Now we arrive at the present moment, and the numbers tell a sobering story. Full year 2025 results for Harley-Davidson, released in February 2026, showed global retail motorcycle sales of 132,535 units. That's down 12% from the year before. Revenue fell 14% to $4.47 billion. And for the first time in years, the core motorcycle division posted an operating loss of $29 million, compared to operating income of $278 million in 2024. Chief Executive Officer Artie, who took the helm in October 2025, described 2026 as a reset year. His message to investors and dealers was clear but unsettling. He said the company would be taking deliberate actions to stabilize the business, restore dealer confidence, and align wholesale shipments with what customers are actually buying. Tariffs added to the pressure. According to Reuters, new tariffs cost Harley-Davidson $22 million in the fourth quarter alone and $67 million for the full year 2025. The company manufactures most of its core products domestically and sources roughly 75% of components from American suppliers, but imported parts, especially semiconductors, remain a cost factor the company can't fully control. Dealer inventory levels, meanwhile, sat too high. Global dealer inventory of new motorcycles ended 2025 down 17% versus the prior year, as Harley worked to better match supply with demand. For dealers who built their businesses during the golden era, this new reality requires a different kind of patience. But the Harley-Davidson story is only half of the American heavyweight picture. 200 miles west of Milwaukee in Minneapolis, another American motorcycle company entered 2026 in a very different position. On February 2, 2026, just 18 days ago, Indian Motorcycle officially became an independent company for the first time since its revival under Polaris Industries in 2011. The Los Angeles-based private equity firm Carolwood LP closed its acquisition of a majority stake from Polaris, with longtime motorcycle industry executive Mike Kennedy taking the helm as CEO. Kennedy brings more than 30 years of experience, including 26 years at Harley-Davidson and stints running Vance and Hines and Rumble On, the nation's largest powersports dealership group. The timing carries weight. 2026 marks Indian Motorcycle's 125th anniversary, making this simultaneously a celebration of heritage and the start of an entirely new chapter. Kennedy's message was unambiguous. America's first motorcycle company will put America first. Built in America is not a slogan. It's a competitive advantage, and we intend to use it. Indian will retain manufacturing facilities in Spirit Lake, Iowa, and Monticello, Minnesota, along with a research and development center in Bergdorf, Switzerland. Approximately 900 employees transitioned from Polaris to the new standalone company. The strategic bet is clear. Rather than chasing volume or diversifying into electric or adventure segments, Indian is doubling down on what makes the brand distinctive: performance, craftsmanship, and an unmistakably American identity. Whether that bet pays off depends on questions nobody can answer yet. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The demographic challenges facing heavyweight motorcycles contain a genuine bright spot that deserves attention. Women represented just 6% of American motorcycle owners in 1990. By 2014, that number had climbed to 14%. The most recent Motorcycle Industry Council survey puts female ownership at 19% and growing. And here is the fascinating detail. The median age for female motorcyclists is 39, compared to 48 for men. Women riders tend to be younger and better trained. And according to Motorcycle Industry Council data, they spend more per person on maintenance, parts, and accessories than male riders. Groups like the Litas and the Caramel Curves have built thriving communities of women riders across the country. International Female Ride Day has become a global phenomenon. Motorcycle Safety Foundation enrollment among women increased 48% in 2021 alone. If there is a path to revitalizing the heavyweight motorcycle market, women riders represent one of the most promising avenues. They are entering motorcycling through the same channels where the broader market has been losing ground, and manufacturers are finally taking notice. The other major force reshaping the market is competition from segments that barely existed 2 decades ago. Adventure motorcycles, designed for both highway touring and off-road capability, have become the fastest-growing segment in motorcycling. The BMW R1250 GS alone sells more than 68,000 units annually worldwide. The global adventure motorcycle market is valued between $15 and $16 billion and climbing. Meanwhile, accessible midweight cruisers from Japanese manufacturers have eaten into heavyweight sales from below. The Honda Rebel 1100 ranked as the second best-selling motorcycle in America in 2024, offering cruiser styling and adequate highway capability at a price point $5,000 to $6,000 below American heavyweight alternatives. Honda's e-clutch technology, which allows clutchless shifting while maintaining manual control, is lowering the entry barrier for new riders intimidated by traditional motorcycle operation. It is a technological innovation that American manufacturers are watching carefully. And then there is Royal Enfield, the Indian company based in Chennai, that has become one of the world's largest motorcycle manufacturers. With 1.09 million annual sales globally and 11.6% growth in the American market, Royal Enfield is bringing retro-styled middleweight motorcycles to riders who want the classic aesthetic without the heavyweight price tag. The elephant in every showroom, of course, is affordability. A new Harley-Davidson touring motorcycle fully equipped for cross-country riding easily crosses the $30,000 mark. Factor in gear, insurance, registration, and financing costs at current interest rates of 9 to 10%, and the first year of motorcycle ownership can exceed $20,000 for a new rider. That is not an impulse purchase. That is a major financial decision. Stars acknowledged this reality directly in Harley's earnings announcement. The company is leaning into higher-margin touring and custom models while preparing to introduce a smaller, lower-priced sprint model in the second half of 2026 aimed at attracting entry-level riders. It is a strategic pivot that recognizes an uncomfortable truth. The market can no longer support the assumptions of the golden era. But here is where the global context matters. While the American heavyweight market struggles, the worldwide picture looks dramatically different. India sold 20.5 million two-wheelers in 2024 alone. That is roughly 40 times the entire USA motorcycle market. The emerging middle classes of Asia, South America, and Africa view motorcycles not as luxury recreational vehicles, but as practical transportation and symbols of upward mobility. The global heavyweight motorcycle market, valued at roughly $24.7 billion in 2024, is projected to reach somewhere between $94 and $127 billion by 2030, depending on which analyst you believe. North America currently accounts for about 45% of global heavyweight sales, but that percentage will decline as other markets grow. For American manufacturers, the question is not whether global markets matter. The question is how to compete in them while the domestic business contracts. There's one more story worth telling here, one that captures something essential about what heavyweight motorcycles mean to the people who love them. In 1962, a man from Invercargill, New Zealand, named Bert Munro, loaded a 1920 Indian Scout motorcycle onto a ship bound for California. The bike had been extensively modified over 40 years of tinkering in his shed. Munro was 63 years old. He drove the bike across the country to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah and proceeded to set multiple land speed records that still stand today. A 46-year-old motorcycle ridden by a 63-year-old man outrunning purpose-built racing machines. The story became the basis for the 2005 film The World's Fastest Indian, starring Anthony Hopkins. It has become part of motorcycle mythology because it captures something that spreadsheets and demographic surveys can never quite explain. The relationship between rider and machine is personal in a way that cars simply cannot replicate. The sound of an American V-twin, the feel of chrome under your hands, the particular vibration that travels up through the handlebars on a long, straight road. These things exist beyond economics. Every generation of riders discovers this on their own terms. The question is whether enough members of the next generation will get the chance to discover it at all. So where does all of this leave us? Both of America's heavyweight motorcycle companies are entering 2026 under new leadership, with strategic resets underway. Harley-Davidson under Artie is working to stabilize operations, protect dealer relationships, and develop more accessible entry points to the brand. The company has cut manufacturer-suggested retail prices by as much as $3,000 on some models, and promises a lower-priced sprint model in the second half of the year. Indian Motorcycle, now independent under Mike Kennedy and Carolwood LP, is betting on differentiation and domestic manufacturing pride. The 125th anniversary celebration provides a platform, but the real test comes when new riders have to choose between an Indian and all the other options competing for their attention and money. The demographic headwinds have not changed. The median rider is still 50 years old. Interest rates remain elevated. Young buyers still face student debt and housing costs that leave little room for $20,000 discretionary purchases. But the countervailing forces are real too. Women riders continue to grow as a share of the market. Younger female riders in particular represent exactly the kind of new customer pipeline the industry desperately needs. Technology, like electronic clutch systems, is making motorcycles more accessible to beginners, and social media communities are creating new pathways into motorcycle culture that bypass traditional dealership experiences entirely. The heavyweight motorcycle market will look very different 10 years from now. Harley-Davidson may be smaller but more profitable, focused on premium customers who value heritage and experience over volume discounts. Indian may have carved out a distinctive position as the scrappy American alternative, trading on independence and craftsmanship, or one or both brands may have stumbled, been acquired, or transformed beyond recognition. Global analysts project the worldwide heavyweight market could quadruple in value by 2030. Even if American manufacturers capture only a fraction of that growth, the opportunity dwarfs anything available in the saturated domestic market. For potential new riders watching this, the message is complicated. Heavyweight motorcycles deliver an experience that nothing else quite matches. The freedom, the sound, the feeling of covering ground under your own power. That has not changed since 1901 when Indian built America's first production motorcycle, or since 1903 when Harley and Davidson constructed their first machine in that Milwaukee shed. What has changed is everything around those machines. The economics, the demographics, the competitive landscape. The industry that built its identity on rebellious independence now finds itself fighting for relevance against forces that demand adaptation. The sun sets over a desert highway. The rumble of a V-twin fades into the distance. Somewhere in America, a 23-year-old who has never ridden anything with two wheels is watching videos of motorcycles on their phone, wondering if this could be something for them. That moment of curiosity, multiplied across millions of potential riders, represents the future of heavyweight motorcycles in America. Whether Harley-Davidson and Indian Motorcycle can capture that curiosity, convert it into keys in hands and wheels on pavement, will determine whether the next chapter of American motorcycling rivals the golden era or fades into nostalgia. The machines are ready, the heritage is unquestionable. The question is whether the next generation will answer the call. If you found this story compelling, consider subscribing. We explore the business and culture behind iconic American industries, examining what made them great and what threatens to unmake them. The story of American motorcycling is still being written. How it ends depends on decisions being made right now, in boardrooms in Milwaukee and Minneapolis, in dealerships across the country, and in the minds of people who haven't bought their first motorcycle yet, but might. The rumble continues. For now, continues.